Hello from Bali. This is the podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss some skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about science fiction and let's start with the definition.
It's very easy to explain. Sometime ago, I asked Stephen King, maybe you know, he wrote horror books. What is the difference between fantasy and science fiction? And his answer was quite clear. Science fiction, it's about future, it's about space, it's about robots, it's about machines. But if this about elves, if this about dragons, if there is no techniques involved, it would be fantasy.
Well, it's actually funny if how it would sound if it would be about dragons into the space. But like when we speak about the science fiction, the people who actually thinking of all of this, and I was looking into like how it was evolving, especially like in the 50s, they all had like a different ideas how the human society would work. So let's talk about the people who actually, invent or come up with the ideas of the worlds. Like, what exactly was motivation for them? Like, how exactly what kind of stories they were trying to tell when they would write their books or novels?
I was lucky to work with James Cameron on some films and with Steven Spielberg. And when we were working on Titanic, when we were working on Avatar, I was looking to these very famous guys, and I was sure that they have to create their own universe because they have very many to show. For example, Spielberg, he wrote a lot of different short stories, and Cameron, he drew some small pictures, and when he was showing to everyone, it was quite understandable, but this was not so sweet that everyone wanted. But when he created, for example, Avatar, it was amazing movie, and this divided our life for two parts, before Avatar and after. Was the very first movie in quite 3D mode. Yes, previously we have so-called stereo cinemas when you will sit in special glasses. One of them could be made from red or another with blue plastic, and it will show like 2.5D, and you will see the shark, or maybe you will see Rolling Stones which will fall on you and you will make some movements, and it's quite funny. But anyway, when we created 3D, which will involve a lot of our senses, it was quite impressive. And when you live in this movie for 3 hours, you believe that everything is very logical, and it has a name. And if you couldn't understand something, you should find to everything has a special place. And if there is no connection with your logic, there's not a flow in the movie, this flow in your logic, in your mind.
And for the people who actually creates with their mind all of the stories, because I do remember it, one of the skills, there was a saying that actually there are like three types of the genres that could be, in the could be taken as the basis in the literature. But when we speak about science fiction, yes, it could be same like a love story or a crime story or comedy or whatever happening into the space, but then it should be like a different dimension, which might be like a circumstances, the world, or maybe like any other dimension that we could think of. So given the development of the technology even now, because let's say, like what was really sounds fantastic, I don't know, like maybe 10 years ago, now sounds quite boring and, not really well thought. So whether it's getting harder for people who do science fiction to do this now, because they really need to, like push the boundaries and, come up with something better and bigger.
I was living as a student in, let me remember how to say, like a hostel, общежитие.
Or dormitory.
Dormitory, yes, correct, dormitories, thank you. That was the quite right word. It was a guy who came to me and he asked, I heard that you're working with movie maker on Titanic. Could you show him my script? And I take this huge amount of papers which were binded by nitka, by wire,
Threads.
by threads, and I was trying to show to the Hollywood bosses, and they apparently were saying to me, this is unsolicited material. We could not accept. We don't know you. We don't know the author. Maybe he was stealing from someone more famous. And if we will make film, if we like it, maybe we will go to court and maybe we will lose the case. So it is impossible. And I was thinking, oh, it's a strange, but maybe this was a beautiful, magnificent script, and maybe it was buried as a best film ever. But anyway, I was talking to some other guys who making films, and when I saw how they work, they're completely crazy. So they never think about logic, about gravitation, about geometry. They just were thinking how to impress people. Let's remind how we saw the battle in the space. In the space, it would be no sound. But if we will see, for example, Star Wars, all the weapons will make some sounds, and all the engines will appear with some also special effects. Without those effects, it will not work. Maybe 15 years ago, it was a guy. He came from Moscow on electric Lexus and or hybrid. And when we sit in the car and we were going to Moscow, suddenly I found that people do not want to give us the road. And then I understand, because the engine was not making noise. And when I told to this guy that there is a problem, he suddenly pushed a special button, and this button was making noise of the engine, but the engine by itself was absent in the car. And I was thinking, wow, just science fiction people could make this. Or for example, when I was presented Audi Q7, it was first late night, how to say?
Late nights.
Suddenly I saw on my window projection of the road and the navigation. I was so astonished. This how to be in the future, but to be right now. And when you will read some novels like 15 years ago or 12 years ago, you will see that all predicted already happened. Yes, there are no teleportation yet. Yes, there are no flying to very far end of the space, but people were dreaming how to fly in the rocket, how to stay on the moon, and how to send something in entire space. By the way, it was like 30 years ago when Voyager was pushed out of the solar system, and he is floating in the space for quite a long time. And if you will see, this is like a science fiction, even right now.
And there was another thing that I actually was noticing in most of the novels, again, like from certain degree. But for example, there was a book called Stainless Steel Red. So it's not really about, like all of the, like a funny guy who's actually bad but doing good things. But maybe it's about unity, because, one thing, there was a one financial system, meaning that they were all across the galaxy, they were using credits. Or there was a story where all of the people would wear the same uniform, or you could like reach out anyone with it was just like a push of the button. So maybe what kind of I see the science fiction's authors, they also would look into how exactly like humanity, or maybe like a different species, by being spread, by being like divided by everything else, they still could be united. So whether the science fiction is also trying to maybe look into not outer space, but maybe in the human's nature, and try to find the things that could really do good for us.
I don't know how to translate in English. I need your help. There was a film with a very famous actor, Tom Hanks. This like Cloud Atlas maybe will be
Cloud
translated.
Atlas, yes.
Cloud Atlas. I do not remember all the stories, but this about the same people who live in different like universes in different times, but they behave almost the same way. Yeah, when I was making lectures about anthropology, I'm always saying to my listeners that there is just two ways to be wealthy. First is to earn, and second to rob someone. And first we were robbing our neighbors. For example, Mongolian or Tatarian people were trying to steal from their neighbors. They were nomads, but neighbors were people who were trying to grow cattle, to grow weed and so on. Then we moved to the sea, and it were pirates who also was making choice, or to make trade, for example, with coffee beans or with some spices, or to abordage other ships and to steal something. And then we will have the next generation. It will be like space pirates. They will make the same, but not on the ship on the water, but a starship in the space. So nothing will change. When we will live on the moon, on the Mars, or in the Venus, we will have churches, we will have shops, we will have currencies, and sometime we will see that what was new developed, so-called new developed technology, it would remind us something which was on the Earth maybe 100 or even 10,000 years ago.
Well, and to concluding all of this, we know like how exactly, like humanity will probably thrive, or probably will see the patterns and maybe try to learn. But again, like knowing the skill could definitely could help to make this world a better place. Stay in peace.